Well, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football gave their teams of the season. They also went through Manager of the Season, Player of the Year, all that. And I'm going to give my thoughts on all those things as well in this video. First and foremost, while I am giving very genuine opinions here, you know, I'm not just throwing things out willy-nilly here. You know, these are genuine thoughts and opinions. It's also not that deep. So if anyone gets that offended by it, anyone, you don't see your player in the team of the season, your manager didn't get Manager of the Year, it's not that important. But if you do want to debate it in the comment section, of course we can. All I'm saying is don't take any of this too seriously, because it ultimately is a little bit of fun at the end of the season. But there are some players and some managers and things that we need to talk about looking back at the season, because I think it's been one of the most amazing Premier League seasons that I can remember in a long time. Didn't end the way I wanted for me and my club, but there's still so much we can appreciate across the board, so we're going to do that now. And there's not going to be a grand reveal, you know, position by position of my Premier League team of the season for the 22-23 campaign. It is just here for you to see. Here you go. This is my team. I've gone for Alisson in goal, Trippier, Stones, Gabriel and Ake in the back four, De Bruyne, Rodri and Ødegaard in midfield, with Saka, Haaland and Martinelli. I'm going to talk through each position very briefly, because, you know, I've given some thought, and I looked at what Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville went with, and I looked at the other teams of the seasons I've been doing the rounds. And here's my thoughts. I mean, for Alisson, I'll be honest, okay? Alisson, I just think is the best goalkeeper in the league. And what I would say is, I actually don't think there's been a standout candidate in the Premier League. I mean, Aaron Ramsdale, I think, has been brilliant at times, but he's had his errors. Nick Pope, for the first half of the season, probably gets it, but I think he's had plenty of errors as well. Ederson is the title-winning goalkeeper, but I don't think he's been faultless by any means. So I'll give it to Alisson, because, and we talk to Liverpool fans, they'll tell you that they'd be far lower down the table if it weren't for Alisson. And actually, he's a goalkeeper that's asked to do an immense amount of work because of Liverpool's defending, especially this season. And I just think he's the best goalkeeper, so he gets it. Trippier at right back, look, it could easily have been Ben White, don't get me wrong. I think Ben White's been unbelievable. If not, actually very underrated, and maybe the way Arsenal season has ended is going to cloud people's judgment of some of these players I've included, but I'm trying to look at the whole season, and I give it to Trippier. I just think, you know, think of that free kick against Man City, think of the assists he's got. I think that's 7 in the league this season. But also, Trippier has had a real transformative impact at Newcastle. And huge credit, he can come inside, he does that sometimes, he comes inside and he plays and he dictates from deep, but often he's overlapping, crossing, he's a very good attacking option as well, very complete player. Trippier starts at right back. For Stones, who I've got a centre back, it's funny because they went with Ruben Diaz, and I think Gary Neville had Saliba and Diaz as his two centre-backs, and I've gone for their two partners. I've gone for Stones and Gabriel. Stones quite literally transformed this Man City team. He was inverting from right back at times. He's played in midfield, but so often he has been the starting centre-back. Well, I say so often. He didn't play as much, I don't think, at the beginning of the season. I might be wrong about that. But this second half of the season, as Man City have got to their best, when he's played centre-back and then come into midfield, that has been when we've seen Man City at their best. And I believe he has been what has taken Man City to the level that we've seen now. De Bruyne and Haaland, they're always in the team. Yeah, they had Ruben Diaz come back and all that, but I really think a crucial part of this Man City team has been John Stones. So he starts at centre-back alongside Gabriel, who I just think has been... Look, there were shouts for Botman, Saliba, I get it. I think Gabriel has edged it on Saliba this year. I think Gabriel might have had a few more high-profile errors than Saliba, but generally I think he's been really commanding at the back as well. And very underrated. I don't know why. I don't know why he doesn't get the respect he deserves, in my opinion. Maybe it's because he does have an error or two in him, but Gabriel, for me, has been the best centre-back at Arsenal this season, though Saliba, in his absence, we've seen how good he's been and how much Arsenal have missed him. So he edges it, but if you want Saliba in there or Diaz, I'm not going to fight you too much. And at left-back, I've gone for Nathan Ake, because I just think he's been superb, and he's played left back, he's played centre back, he's played left in a back three. He's had to overlap at times. He's got a few goals as well this season. I just think Ake's been brilliant. Could have been Zinchenko. I think the way this season's ended for Arsenal, like I mentioned earlier, might cloud the way people see Zinchenko. He has been transformative to this Arsenal team, don't get me wrong, but Ake, I think, just edges it. He's been defensively so resilient and consistent for Man City, and it's funny that Guardiola's kind of changed what he wants from his fullbacks now, and he's had Ake there, who he signed, was it 2 seasons ago, and only now we're really seeing the very best from Nathan Ake. So yeah, Ake gets the other spot. In midfield, look, I think it's got to go to the two teams that have played, I think, the best football in the leagues this season. I think Brighton have been up there as well, don't get me wrong, they've been absolutely immense. But De Bruyne, Rodri and Ødegaard, what more needs to be said? Ødegaard, I think the highest scoring midfielder in the league this season. De Bruyne, he produces magic even when he isn't at his best. Look what he did to Arsenal in that Premier League finals, people said. He tore them apart, and he's formed a really, really good partnership with Haaland. So De Bruyne is in there, and then Rodri at the base, the big Rodri, Casemiro, Partey debate. I would say that Casemiro could have got in this team if it weren't for the fact that he's missed 8 games, which is basically a quarter of the Premier League season through suspension, and also came into the team quite late because they signed him a little bit later as well. So I just think off that alone, Casemiro can't make the team, but he's been amazing for Man United. Man United fans probably look at this team going, what about Lisandro Martinez as well? What about Rashford? Well, I'll get to the left wing position in a bit. Lisandro Martinez, again, could have been in there, I hear it, but look, Arsenal finished higher than Manchester United in the Premier League. I'm not judging the Carabao Cup and what they've done in all other competitions. I'm looking purely at the Premier League here, and Lisandro Martinez, very, very good player, but again, been part of some absolute batterings, and as great as he's been, he's had a couple shockers as well, but I think he's been a brilliant signing, and I want to talk about Lisandro Martinez in a little bit in this video as well in more detail, but sorry Manchester United fans who won't see one of their players in this 11. Saka right wing, I just think he's been the best right winger in the league. Sure, there's shouts for Salah. I think Salah can be mesmerising. I think he can go missing. I would say that I don't think Saka's been at his best for the last few months, but if you look at the whole season, Bukayo Saka I think has been lightning on the right wing. Martinelli on the left wing, he edges it over Marcus Rashford for me. I'm going to be quite harsh here. Rashford's numbers and output, I mean, it's superb this year, but it's actually always been great. His output's largely always been brilliant, bar maybe last season. Marcus Rashford, for me, really from the World Cup to about March, was on fire. But before that, I don't really think we saw the best of Marcus Rashford. I think he was good. I think he's been very good this season, don't get me wrong. But I think Martinelli, by a little blip, between the World Cup and say maybe end of February when then Trossard started to come into the team, that's maybe when Martinelli wasn't at his very best. But otherwise, Martinelli has been unbelievable this season, scoring goals with his head, left foot, right foot. He's played all across the front three, and when the title race heat really, I don't know, when the heat really turned up on Arsenal, he was the one that actually, I think, rose to it and got better through the pressure. So Martinelli makes it, and then Erling Haaland. What more needs to be said about Erling Haaland? In fact, I'm going to save my breath to keep this video short. If you want to know my thoughts on Erling Haaland and quite how good he is, go check out my video on the channel, which compares Haaland's numbers to some of the greats in the game, not just in the Premier League, ever, because his numbers are absolutely startling. So Haaland makes it, and what a front three that is as well. Harry Kane, unfortunately not to get in the team. I've just gone, they both play number 9. I've picked a number 9. I know Jamie Carragher went for Kane at the base, or at the top of a diamond with Haaland and Salah in the front too. I mean, sure, but I just think you've got to pick a number 9, and it's Haaland for me. The Harry Kane has been unbelievable. Let's go through everything else very quickly. Manager of the year, I've given it to Pep Guardiola. And you know what? There are so many shouts. Lopetegui, I forget that when he took over, Wolves were apparently bottom of the table, someone said to me the other day, which I completely forgot. He's done a great job. Ten Hag, I think when you think of the Ronaldo situation, the injuries towards the end of the season, the Casemiro suspension, he's won a trophy, but again, I don't really want to think about that too much, but Ten Hag, what a great season he's had. O'Neill at Bournemouth, what an amazing job. I think Arteta definitely deserves his praise. Gary Neville said that, fourth was probably the best he could do. He actually, for 33, 34, no, maybe not 30, for about 30 games of the season, he actually challenged legitimately for the title. I think that's really impressive from Mikel Arteta. Unai Emery is probably going to get Aston Villa into Europe, but even if he doesn't, what an amazing turnaround, and what an amazing job he's done at Villa. And De Zerbi at Brighton, I think fundamentally, because with Brighton and with Man City and Arsenal, Brighton play the best football in the league. They are absolutely superb to watch. So I wanted to just say a quick word on all those managers, but Guardiola nicks it, because I actually think there was a time where Man City's season was derailing a little bit. They were knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Southampton. They were losing games like the Manchester derby when they'd gone 1-0 up, like away at Tottenham, when everyone was beating Tottenham, especially at their place. And they were having some really poor moments, and Cancelo left. And I think moments like letting Cancelo go and saying that he needed his home crowd and trying to galvanise, the Man City crowd, and then the charges come through and he sticks by his club and he says that, I will be here no matter what and I have faith in my club, blah, blah. I think all this really galvanised the team, and he was the driving force behind all that, as well as putting the pressure on Arsenal and saying, I don't want to be in a position with our experience or whatever. I'd rather be in Arsenal's position with points on the board, being the best team in the league. And he kept just putting the pressure back on Arsenal. And I think Guardiola's had not just because of his coaching and his team and what they do on the pitch, I think off the pitch Guardiola's taken on a lot in terms of driving his team forward. And look, he could win a treble. And I said I didn't want to think about other things outside the Premier League, but just for the fact that he's won his third in a row, he's kept this team motivated, and he has had to pull it around from what was a sticky situation by Man City standards, and he's gone on to win another title, so he gets the Manager of the Year for me, Pep Guardiola. Player of the Year, Erling Haaland. I don't say much more. Like I said, go check out that video. Young Player of the Year, I'll give it to Gabriel Martinelli. Look, by the criteria, it's Erling Haaland again, but I don't want to give the award to two players, and I think in the past, if they probably shouldn't do that. I sort of think, I don't know. I don't really know whether if you're nominated. Well, look, I mean, maybe I'm talking rubbish here. Quite frankly, if you qualify for both and you're the Player of the Year, then that automatically makes you the Young Player of the Year, right? So if you want to give that to Haaland, that's fine. But I just think Martinelli has been the best young player in the Premier League this season, 21 and under. Signing of the season, again, it's Erling Haaland for 52 million or whatever. I know there'll be, signing on fees and wages and all that will really inflate the cost overall of that transfer. But let's just be honest, Erling Haaland, his numbers, he's been unbelievable. And look, Man City have had to adapt, and I talked about that in my last upload on this channel. But Erling Haaland has just been amazing. His numbers absolutely superb. I think others that deserve an honourable mention, I think Zinchenko and Jesus have been transformed to this Arsenal team. Again, Jesus missing a lot of the season, so you can't give it to him. Zinchenko fallen off a little bit, had quite a few spells out with injuries as well, but he has been massive to Arsenal, playing with this box midfield, inverting in from fullback. He's been brilliant. Akanji, fantastic as well. Botman and Isaac as well, fantastic for Newcastle. There have been lots of really, really terrific signings. I think Jamie pointed out Morgan Gibbs-White, which I think was a great shout. But I want to give a shout out to Lisandro Martinez as well. Casemiro, sure, one of them as well. But Lisandro Martinez, because even though I didn't put him in my team of the year or anything like that, I think they've got a lot of clean sheets, Man United. I think when things go wrong for the team, they all kind of capitulate, and Martinez has been a part of that. But they've also been a lot more defensively resilient. They've been keeping clean sheets. I think David De Gea has won the Golden Glove, and I think he owes a lot to Varane and Lindelof and Martinez in front of him for that. Casemiro as well. And Lisandro Martinez, I think, for all the kind of criticism as he arrived into the Premier League, I actually think he has played that role his own way brilliantly. So yeah, it doesn't make my team of the year. I think Gabriel edges him, as does Diaz, as does Saliba, as does Stones, but he's been very, very good. And if you want to argue for him for signing of the year, then fair enough. Most disappointing signing, I've gone for Richarlison. I think you just have to, right? 60 million was supposed to provide depth and options to that front three, and Tottenham have been really useless going forward. Unless they go a goal or two down, then they suddenly come alive. But other disappointing signs, I think Koulibaly's been really disappointing. Remember the hype? I mean, for years everyone was saying Koulibaly was the answer, and he was one of the best centre-backs in the world. Well, we haven't seen it this year, although they've been a mess. Cucurella, awful signing, 62 million or so. Anthony, I don't think's actually been awful for Man United, but I don't really see the 80 million pound price tag or whatever. And then Nunes, again, he's had his moments, he's scored some goals, he causes havoc again, but for the hype and the expectation, and this guy came in as they lost Mane, and remember what Liverpool were doing last year. It's not all on Nunes, of course it's not, but I think for the fee they paid, I expected a little bit more, but he's not been the worst by any stretch of the imagination. They then on Monday Night Football did a biggest surprise of the season. Look, you can say lots of things. I think De Zerbi's been a massive surprise, and he's been fantastic, but I do think it's the Liverpool 7-0 win against Man United. How can it not be? I mean, Liverpool was struggling at the time, Man United turn up, Graham Souness gives it the I've never been more confident of a Liverpool win. You've got Manchester United, who have come in on good form as well. Things are looking on the up, and they lose 7-0, and Liverpool absolutely battered. And you can't even point to a red card or something like that really put Man United on the back foot. They actually had chance in that first half, all going 1-0 down by half time, and then Liverpool blew them away. That is 100% for me the biggest surprise of the season, and that leads us nicely on to my favourite game of the season. And I've gone for the Liverpool 4, Tottenham 3, just because it had everything that I personally love. It had Tottenham getting absolutely slapped in the first 15 minutes, like they were against Newcastle, and you're thinking, oh my word, it's going to be that again. It was tactically interesting because Trent was coming into midfield and lots was going on there. You saw the front line of Liverpool come to life again, in one of the few times in the season where all three, Salah, Gakpo, Diaz, it started to feel like the Klopp front threes of old. They were blowing them away. And then Tottenham pull it back to 3-3 with a late goal, Richarlison in the celebration, and a load of their fans have left. They're already travelling home. And then just as you thought Ryan Mason and Tottenham had pulled off something really special, there goes Diogo Jota with an error from Lucas Moura to win Liverpool the game. And I just thought, this is classic Premier League football. You got Jurgen Klopp pulling a hamstring on the touchline in celebration. It all went off, but it was just a great watch as well. Lots of controversy in it as well. I will say that the Liverpool 2-2 Arsenal, I think it was like a heavyweight boxing clash. There's me trying to talk boxing, what do I know? But it was just punch for punch. It was Liverpool could have scored and won it, Arsenal could have scored and won it, chances at either end, neither defence looking good enough, but both teams and players just trying to get through it and win it for their team, and I thought that was a great game as well. Anyway, those have been my thoughts, everyone, on the season. Let me know yours, your team of the season, manager of the year, player of the year, young player, everything I've mentioned. Like I said, it's just a little bit of fun, but I really like the top four we've ended up with. Man City, okay, they've won the league, but Arsenal, Newcastle, Man United, three massive clubs in there as well. And yeah, it's and the relegation battle's going right to the wire, and Leicester have given themselves a chance with that point at Newcastle. So the Premier League has been superb this season, absolutely superb. I don't think anyone could deny it. It's absolutely flown by, and in no time it all starts again. So yeah, I'll be making predictions very soon, and I'll be looking back at my predictions from this season as well in a video next week. Alright, we'll leave it there. Many thanks. Hope you enjoyed this. Do hit the like button if you have. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because then you'll know when I'm uploading, and a load of people watch these videos and haven't subscribed, so please subscribe. It really means a lot. Alright, see you very soon.